Well, Kelly, we know War Games is coming up Saturday because this show was built around promoting those two matches. Who do you think had the more compelling build between the men's and the women's setup, or were they both, paint by numbers enough? And I don't mean that derisively. That they just kind of are matching.
Paint by numbers, I suppose, but easy for me to say men's just because that was the last segment that I just watched. So probably that. I thought that they did an okay job with the women, but that was more the kind of segment that we think of as go home obligatory than anything else we saw. Let's see them all in one place, and again, I'm not being derisive either here, but that is just real simple stuff. But I think just the simple visual of seeing all 10 of them at the same time kind of works. So it didn't really bug me.
I think too, like with the men, obviously the show ended with Brock showing up, Mr. Special Attraction gets to, I think he does get paid by the second, like anything over 30 seconds, or if he breaks a sweat, it's like costs WWE $1 million extra.
He must be. Yeah, because Tony Schiavone came out and said, "We gotta go!" like as soon as Brock showed up. So that was that.
Yes, it is. He is meant to seem very special and very scarce. But at the beginning of the show, I think it was the most significant segment. Although Becky Lynch, we can talk about what she had to say about the women. But so we have the heel women where Becky's kind of domineering and insulting and arrogant. That was sort of the case on the men's side, or the risk on the men's side in the opening segment, because you have, Cody and Punk and Reigns bickering a little bit. There's always danger with that, where you make fans choose as kind of a Paul Levesque specialty, I think, booking-wise, to just put fans needlessly in a position to choose between wrestlers who they like by having them all point out each other's weaknesses and sometimes seem small and unbecoming in the way they conduct themselves. And childish, we saw that with Rhea Ripley earlier this year, too, and how she was handling some things. So I don't love it, although I think this was an example of getting away with it. So there's some baggage there. I'm not in favor of that as a typical booking technique to go to all that often, but I actually thought Cody and Punk and Reigns each kind of represented themselves well as kind of alpha males, just defending their turf, making their case. They stuck to the facts, and they didn't seem like too petty. Do you think I'm being too generous with that, or does that kind of line up with your thoughts?
No, I think that we've definitely seen ones that were worse than this, with faces cutting each other down. All of them, I thought, had compelling reasons to be the head of the team. Roman's reason is just that he's Roman, but you can say that after you've done as many WrestleMania main events as he's done. So he kind of gets away with that. So I think that none of them were wrong enough for this to be flat to me. And I know that this is just an obligatory scene, but I guess I found it compelling enough for a go home show.
I think so I think they all came across fine. I think Roman had the line at the end where he kind of looked at Punk and Cody and said, the belt looked better on me, or something along those lines. And then Punk asked. Punk was the one who said, who said to Cody, who was he talking to, you or me? And Reigns laughed off at ringside, sort of said to the camera, also kind of under his breath, "Well, that's for them to figure out." And then he continued walking. And then Punk just tells Cody, he was talking to you. I wasn't quite sure how to take that. I think it might have been a ad-libbed line by Punk, although I hope not, because I don't know what to make of that. Like, Punk is like genuinely like, actually think he's aiming for you, Cody, or was Punk playing head games with Cody, going, "Yeah, Reigns coming for you, not me, because he's scared of me. He thinks he can beat you." Or was it Punk trying to, and I don't think he would, but did he come across as scared of Reigns? So he's kind of almost hopefully saying that rather than believing it. But it was an interesting way to close the segment. And I think it's good when you have, it's not good you have two men's world champions, generally speaking. It waters things down a little bit, especially when they appear side by side, and it accentuates the notion, what do these belts mean if there's two of them? But that said, when they are standing there opposite of Roman, you do want Roman to covet the belts, or at least, one of them. So I think it was good he said that, because it does put in play in people's minds a little bit that this could lead to Roman against Cody or Roman against Punk. And by not knowing exactly who he was talking to based on Roman looking at both and the way the camera did it, kind of the choices of camera angles, it leaves it to people's imagination to think, yeah, who was he talking to? Who do I want him to be talking to? Which match do I like more? And I mean, it's good to plant seeds like that. I think just in general, you want wrestlers pretty consistently seeking out, showing a desire to become world champion and getting title shots if they're main eventers. And Roman, certainly you don't want to think is past it or over it. You want to think he wants to be champ again.
Yeah, I actually thought that it came off like a Punk ad lib, but a lot of things he says come off as ad libs, and and that's a good thing if he's not ad libbing, because you want it to sound natural and like he's just in the moment. So if he's not ad libbing, he's just really very good at what he's doing, and but it came off as an ad lib, and I think he does that a little bit. I think whatever he was going to say, where CM stands for whatever, and then he got stepped on, it's because he threw in a line, and Roman was like, "It's my cue, and and I can't sit down to whatever you're saying, so I got to keep going here." So yeah, as far as I think the story there was just I took it as CM Punk razzing Cody.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it as being fearful for having Roman breathe down his neck. That's not what I took from it anyway. I thought he was just messing with Cody.
I thought when Punk said, or when Roman said, well, okay, when Punk said, "I saved you at War Games," and then Roman said, then 4 months later, you ruined it. And then Punk later backstage goes, "I didn't ruin my life." And Punk's like, I didn't ruin you. You're standing right here. And he said that right in front of Roman to Cody. And that was, again, I don't think it was ad-libbed, but it was, I thought, a good night for Punk in that he was sort of, I think Punk is at his strongest when he seems confident enough that his quips come across as sort of ad-libbed, not scripted, because his whole character needs to be unscripted, or it feels egregiously inauthentic, given how much he talks, well, other than Cena, how much he talks about how authentic he is in so many words, that he's not the guy who's out there to follow script. So I actually thought Punk was kind of had a little, I don't know, yeah, just his quips felt in step with what people perceive him to be and what they want him to be like. So I like that. And that's kind of where I say in the end, I just think everybody kind of got their lines in, and Cody was Cody, just a nice guy trying to keep everybody on the same page because we have a common enemy. So all in all, yeah, I think it worked. I could imagine a lot of people grouping this in with, oh, babyfaces bickering, they all looked worse. And I thought that at first, and then the more I thought about it, I was like, no, I think they kind of pulled this off.
Yeah, I had the same progression where I've seen this movie before because they play back the same hits every year. But I don't know if it was just the personalities involved or just a better use of the personalities involved that made me think this. And yeah, Punk is a guy who gets by on assumed authenticity. It's weird because authenticity is a gimmick, which is inherently it feels like a dangerous line to walk when you're using reality as a gimmick, but I think he continues to get away with it with his presentation and the way he delivers his lines.
I want to talk more about the War Games build after we kind of set the table here. I also want to talk about not just the men, but the women's side of things and how Becky came across and all of that, and also introduce some comments in the chat. But first, let's just pause and introduce ourselves in the show. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show for Monday, November 24th, 2025. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, editor, publisher, and founder of the long-running Pro Wrestling Torch weekly newsletter, paper copy, starting decades ago, and now it is also available in a digital copy, PDF, and all text. And you can peruse our archives going back to the late 1980s, wrestling coverage before the internet, independent journalistic style coverage, not fanboy coverage, insider information, tons of on-record, long-form interviews with some of pro wrestling's biggest names in the ring and behind the scenes, all in those pages of the back issues. And we are running a sale here. I think our second sale of the year. It's been a long time since we ran one. For a discount on the VIP membership, you get $9 off. So with a $12.99 monthly subscription drops down to $3.99. If you take advantage of this, it's a limited time offer. So don't delay. PWTorch.com/GoVIP. And the coupon code you want to use when you get to the sign-up form is NOV2025, as in November. NOV2025. You can also apply the $9 discount to a 3-month or 12-month sub. It'll take $9 off whatever offer you want. Obviously, we give you discounts for the longer term subs in general, and then this brings it down another $9, whatever term you choose. And that is a full VIP membership. So that unlocks all our archives, everything we've done that we put online, which is nearly everything, is available on demand instantly in our archives. And then also it gives you full access to our customizable podcast feed, which is compatible with Apple Podcasts with a single click. You don't have to enter passwords or go to advanced settings or anything. It's a really slick setup. It's also compatible with a ton of other podcast apps for iOS and Android. And you can also just stream them right from our ad-free VIP exclusive website, which is desktop and mobile friendly. We also have an ad-free website and the Wade Keller news bulletins, a new feature I'm doing during the week. And that includes a one-page PDF and a landscape view, so it looks great on a tablet or laptop with my cover story. The one I'm working on now, I didn't quite get finished before Raw, is my reaction to AEW All Out and Full Gear and the finish, the title change with Hangman and Samoa Joe, and some insight into that decision, and then my take on where things might be going. Didn't quite finish it, so be on the lookout for that. I also do an audio version of that, lasts about 16 minutes. Basically, I read the main story of the day along with some news and notes and end notes. It's a new feature we started just over a month ago, and I'm looking to ramp it up and do it more frequently as time goes on here. So you can check that out also. So many benefits. PWTorch.com/GoVIP. Coupon code NOV2025. Thank you, everybody, for your support. Thanks to current VIP members, and join them and see what the experience is all about. We're here to talk Monday Night Raw in the lead up to Thanksgiving, followed by Survivor Series on Saturday night. And you definitely knew Survivor Series is coming up Saturday because they did, I think, a good job pushing that event on this show. We are here to talk about that build. The final build a lot of people will see because of the holiday on Friday. It's a pre-taped SmackDown on Friday, and there tends to be a little bit of a drop-off in viewership for that. And Kelly Wells from PWTorch NXT, PWTorch contributor, helping out with NXT coverage and New Japan coverage for years and years. Kelly Wells, welcome to the co-host chair. Good to talk to you on a Monday night. Now, Kelly is muted, and I'm not, I think, unless I muted him.
Nope, that was me. I muted me because of coughing. Okay, yep, so yes, always good to be here, but I do think I bring the owies because I was here the day that that Big E got injured, and and I was here for the Penta injury.
Yeah, so I didn't get a chance to check on that, but I mean, it looked pretty straightforward to me that, I mean, it could be a collarbone injury, but my guess is separated shoulder, dislocated shoulder, based on the way he was moving his arm afterwards. It didn't look like he was in too much pain to move his arm, but rather he was stretching his arm out to pop it back into socket. There's different degrees of how long he'll be out if that happens, but I mean, a few weeks to a month or so is generally, unless surgery is required. I don't think he was in quite enough. I mean, my amateur diagnosis from all this distance on TV, but it didn't seem like he was in enough agony where I would think he'll be out a long time or need surgery. But I've been wrong diagnosing injuries from a distance before. But for people who didn't see it, it wasn't gruesome. It just looked like he was frustrated and in a little bit of pain. And they cut to a commercial break kind of suddenly. And when they came back, they just said he couldn't continue. And he kind of, with his good arm, slapped the ringside barricade in frustration. What was your assessment of what you saw?
I thought that it wasn't overly serious. And actually, the one thing that gave me pause was Solo's reaction. I thought that Solo looked a little bit rattled by it. I just thought that he didn't put a lot into his. Oh yeah, so now he's worried. Right. So he did the finger sign and everything like that, but you could tell he wasn't happy. And then he yelled out something real naughty to somebody in the front row. I don't know if you caught that, but he gave an FU to somebody, just loudly yelled it out at somebody in the front row. So maybe they were saying something about that injury or something like that. But he was not happy. And then he put up the finger again, and he looked like he wanted to be anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. So too bad. What do you think about did you expect that Penta was going to advance against Gunther, or do you think they were going to do a heel match with Solo Gunther, especially if you think possibly they're on a path for Gunther to be a babyface? And I don't have inside information. I'm not even predicting that, but I'm exploring it as a possibility coming out of the kind of puzzling Cena match. Because as I've talked about, I just think Cena should win his last match, or it should be a feel-good moment. And Gunther beating him just feels like the only way it's a feel-good moment is if Cena says this guy's really good and Gunther wrestles in a respectful way and shows respect to Cena. and they decide to make him a babyface there. Or you could do something like where Miz comes out and goes, I should have been in this match, and throws a fit, and then Cena just kind of beats him up to end the show, and Gunther is there applauding him. So you kind of have a feel-good moment there. So I say that only because I don't know for a fact that Penta was going to advance. But if he wasn't, I think it has to be, well, pretty close to has to be, because they want Gunther sympathetic against Solo in the semifinals. But otherwise, it did screw up the tournament if they were going to do Penta versus Gunther. And Penta seemed upset enough that my reading of it is he was expecting and looking forward to a match against Gunther. I doubt he's losing a finale against John Cena. That would be a real bummer if he was scheduled to beat Gunther. But nevertheless, he's missing a high-profile match in the semis, if that's the case. So, Kelly, those are kind of my thoughts. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I think that Penta was definitely going to win this. Even if I hadn't seen all of what I saw, I would have said that Penta was going to win this, just because if they're doing it with Gunther, then why have him go against one of the most likable underdogs in all of the company, Javon Evans? I just think that allowed both Evans and Gunther to do what they do best. So it just seems like it would have been an odd choice for that to be what happened in the second round of this very tournament. So, and it also puts fans in a weird position with that particular match, Gunther and Solo, because even if they're doing it with Gunther, they hadn't done it yet. So very strange, and definitely a bummer. I think it was both supposed to be Penta, but I don't think either of the injuries in the tournament were guys who were supposed to actually win the tournament. So I think we're still good, but 2 out of 16 isn't great. I don't want us to enter brawl for all territory here.
Yeah, really. By the way, we have a super chat, so I'm obligated to bring this up, if as long as it fits in the course of the show somewhat. This is a self-serving one, but I'll do it anyway. Sean Plitch just says, I will stay in the chat, but Wade covers wrestling better than anyone. Take the sale. It's the best thing you will do, and it's the best chat also. Thank you, Sean. So he's referring to our VIP sale. So if you're watching us on YouTube, I put the graphic up. You can pause the screen and go ahead and type in pwtorch.com/govip and jump to the sign up form and enter NOV 2025 and take Sean's advice. He paid money for me to read you a commercial. Don't be mad at him. You'll be thankful later, if you hadn't decided to sign up, that he pushed you again to do so. All right, back to the show. The Penta Gunther match, just I feel a sense of loss because I was looking forward more to that than Solo Gunther. I mean, it's just gonna be weird. Like, we'll just work from the assumption. I think it's safe, to say that it was going to be Penta Gunther. Now they have a match that's kind of intriguing because, like, how do you book it? Like, do you protect Solo? Do you protect Gunther? Do you I just don't know. So now they have to kind of wing it, and it'll be an interesting. I think in some way, well, not a more interesting match, but it'll be interesting in an unexpected way.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do here. These are not too. They're both supposed to be overwhelming characters as well, so I don't know that there's an obvious way to have these two guys go against each other. I mean, if you've got Shawn Michaels and Rick Martel, you can make a rule that they can't hit each other in the face, and then you hate them both. But you don't have those type of heels here, so I don't know what they want to do. I think that it was real straightforward if it was Penta, and Penta is so liked that people were going to be ticked off that Gunther's winning, even though it is the most open secret in the world that everybody thinks that Gunther's winning this tournament.
Everyone thought Hangman was going to beat Samoa Joe Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that's more likely than Gunther not making the finals. I just I do this, I think, just to add some suspense to when something gets widely reported. Like, you'd be good all the time betting on the thing that's widely reported, but there are exceptions, including Jey Uso winning the Rumble. So I don't know. I mean, they humble us every once in a while, or they call audibles or whatever. But this does feel like nothing inconsistent has come up with that. But I will not believe it until there's a bell ringing and Gunther's hand is raised in the tournament final. I think I've been surprised enough.
Yeah, and there was I don't know if there was much doubt with Penta, but I think there's almost no doubt with Solo. I don't think that they booked Solo all the way to the end here. And I do know the Final Four. I wasn't trying to know the Final Four, but earlier today I looked up the bracket just because I couldn't remember how it broke down. And had forgotten that Friday was a tape show, so I know who the final four are now.
Yeah.
So I know who's going to be in that. So so a couple of interesting matches that we're going to get in the next week. So it was fun to cover, but yeah, just such a bummer about Penta, and hopefully he doesn't lose any stock in the meantime, because he was getting some of the hugest pops of the night just for walking, because that's how cool the man is.
Yes. Yep. I doubt he will be in trouble for suffering a shoulder injury doing a pretty rudimentary move. I mean, it's not like he took some crazy chance. He just did what he normally does, and something went a little bit awry. And it's going to happen sometimes. Okay, so let's shift to the women, the women's build. We had Becky Lynch griping about what happened with Maxine Dupree, and then complimenting, backhanded complimenting her partners one at a time. What did you think of the Becky promo? Were there strengths and weaknesses to the majority of talking, which she did the majority of the talking?
I thought that this was pretty fun. Becky reminding everybody, hey, we're the bad guys, but I'm the worst of us. Just absolutely setting herself up to kind of put them over while still burying them. It's a very, very precarious thing to do. And only heels should do this, if anybody should do this at all, but you've got to be pretty skilled to be able to pull it off as well. And I just liked her. Even when she's putting him over, she's like, I got these three to be stars, and I'll do that for you too, Lash Legend. And Nia really just overacting, but you can do that when you don't have any lines in the scene, I suppose. But just we got lots and lots of reaction shots of her. So I just I really liked what Becky did here, and I thought it was better than a pass the mic around a whole bunch moment. I just thought she really, really sold this well for the team.
What do you think of Becky's work lately? I mean, her reaction to, I know, what do you say? I know you're all distressed over what happened last week, the injustice with Maxine Dupree. She has her lawyers working on it. She's been advised not to talk about it, but she claims she follows the rules. Heads are going to roll. And she'll get her title back, and the company will be better for it, but it's a travesty, but she can't do anything about it now. And then she goes, and the company will also be better when I get rid of AJ Lee once and for all. So they're certainly playing up Becky and AJ. Is there anything like, and in the chat, like the comments are complimentary. Sean Plitch just says Becky was very good. Sadler V3 says Becky was good here. And Sean adds, such a great heel, one of the best right now. John Prine's Gym Shoes says Becky called out the poor officiating in the Bears game. She gets it, and the mistreatment she receives from the officiating staff is ridiculous. So what do you think about Becky's heel run this time? Is there anything that jumps out better than her last attempt? And is she like one of the better heels in wrestling right now, or is that overstating it?
I don't think it is. I think she is one of the better ones. I like a delusional heel. They're my favorite kind. And she did that so well tonight. And just the whole run she's doing is about everyone's against me. And I've worked with people in restaurants and in retail that were just like, everyone's against me. And they just assume that everybody else sees it as well. And it's like, come on, you're the common denominator here. And they just will not look within. And I just think that that's a brilliant way for a heel to go about their business, and just to take notes from the kind of person who thinks, I'm the victim all the time. And don't worry, this is going to be set right. Thinking they're a fighter for justice, but only their own justice. Like, they don't apply that to anybody else in the world. I just really dig what she's doing.
Can't think of her name, but there's a contestant on the current season of Survivor, and at one point early on, she goes, I'm really stressed out and upset and bitter because everybody at work, nobody will talk to me outside of work. Nobody will talk to me except on official business. And so it was meant to be a sympathetic story about how she's ostracized and how she wants to feel part of the group on her tribe on Survivor. I'm getting this roughly right. And I heard, when I hear someone say nobody at work will talk to me, and I feel like, nobody's nice to me, I'm like, I'm kind of thinking if it's that many people, you might not want to say that out loud, because even if it's true, I think most people's reaction is maybe it's you.
Yeah.
And Becky plays into that like really well, just like all these bad things are happening to me. And like you said, she's that delusional heel, and she's just entertaining in the way that she carries it out. So yeah, Derek Mitchell goes, I say it all the time. Everyone thinks they're the hero in their story, and Becky Lynch is no different. Darrell says Becky is continuing to make her heel character feel more and more better, and she's getting others over as well. This is a much better heel run for Becky, no question, says Rude Dog. Do you agree that Becky, like, what do you think of the title change and how Maxine Dupree is handling it, and the idea of giving this underdog a title run and telling a different kind of story with her, and what Becky did to help make it work, if you think it's working?
I think that they did a dry run for this on NXT. They had somebody really unlikely win the women's championship, JC Jane, and then there were people lining up to fight her because they had the announcers saying, this is the most beatable champion we've ever had. So she had to go out and prove everybody wrong. And then did a second straight underdog winner because Tatum Paxley was not expected to beat her. And it was she won it and then lost it back. But yeah, I think that they're doing a lot of times, if you see something that you haven't seen a lot, they've just recently done something like that on NXT. And it just seems like they're not only testing out wrestlers, they're testing out stories to see how they play. By the way, that player on Survivor you're talking about is Savannah. I do watch Survivor.
Gotcha. Yep.
I did see that.
Yep.
And on top of that, Savannah is very cutthroat and nasty.
Yep.
So like, it's pretty easy to see how people were like, well, she's in it for her.
As the game has gone on, it's like it validates my initial reaction to her saying, "Oh, no one will talk to me, and they're all mean."
Right.
Like, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Was she the one who said she's like the Grim Reaper, but sexy or gorgeous? Or is that some other player?
That has to be her.
Yeah.
I don't remember if that was her, but I can't think of another person on the show who would have said it.
Yeah.
So I guess I'd have to look at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Maxine Dupree, I think the thing is working. And I never thought that's something I would have said about Maxine Dupree because she was called up way, way, way too early. At the time she was called up from NXT, I would have potentially said she was the worst all-around performer on the show. She needed lots and lots of work in literally every area. And she got forced to learn on the job. And I think that's really kind of a crappy thing to do to somebody who wants to do this long term, but they call up who they call up. And the fact that she not only has won a title, but I think that they were justified in putting this specific title on her. I think that that's a testament to the amount of work she's done behind the scenes.
There's a comment here from Standard Deviation. This is Becky's best heel run, which is underscored by the fans wanting to see her in this role, unlike circa 2018. And Sean Plish says, yeah, this heel turn just made a lot of sense. Sean adds, I do like the underdog story with Maxine, and I liked her backstage stuff with people coming at her. I just didn't like the finish last week. Kelly, do you have other examples coming to mind of NXT trial run stories that have been done on the main roster? And do you think they typically make good calls about what to emulate or reenact? Or do they usually in some way get it better or worse than the original on NXT?
Now that you call me out, it's my brain will probably empty. I know that they've done that I've seen them do Strange Bedfellows becoming slowly a good team on the job, like Charlotte and Charlotte and Alexa are doing that now. But somebody did that right after Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin did it, which is still my favorite thing either of them have done at any level of the company. And then they've also, I think that even match types, I think that they did, I think 4 war games in NXT. And I think they always thought maybe this is what we bring to the main roster. And there were just conversations with what do we do with Survivor Series matches, because they can tell great stories. They're just different stories. And they finally decided only having one person job in this match instead of 7. Maybe that's what we want.
Anything else about the women's match before we switch topics, such as Rhea Ripley and what she did, like anything on the heel or face side of things in terms of the build? Actually, especially probably the AJ Lee promo, which was the other major talking segment building that match. Do you think AJ is landing in her, doing the same thing she did before, but years later?
Yes, and it's the same, but it's a lot of it is, hey, I've grown up, so I'm not this woman anymore, but I
Because
can be
therapy
her
works.
if I need. Yes, but I can be her if I need to be. So, so I kind of like that she's shown. Yes, I've developed, but if you if you force the the nasty AJ out, she'll come out. So I thought she acquitted herself pretty well. I would just add that pleasant surprise to see somebody like Lash come so far also, because Lash is somebody who started out pretty rough. She was she had charisma, but she didn't have promos down necessarily. She could go up there and look like she would be able to get it eventually, but she didn't have it right away. And in the ring, she was real rocky in the beginning, and she didn't even get a match that was north of 5 minutes for probably quite a few months on TV anyway. So to see her grow into this, and the person that I think should just straight up replace Nia as that heel giant gatekeeper, I just think that's a really good spot for her. And I'm interested in this match, period, but I'm really interested in what kind of story they tell with Lash. I feel like in both matches, I see the person who is going to do the job, but I'm still very interested to see how each person's story plays out.
Do you like Lash and Nia together, like as a kind of introductory journey for her on the main roster? And where do you see it going, or where do you think it ought to go in terms of, do they break up and does one turn face? Yeah, just explore that.
I think it's inevitable, and I think that it's hard to turn Nia face for so many different reasons. Right now, I just don't know that she would have the groundswell. And I also think that Lash is somebody who can be pretty easily cheered. She's much better on the mic than Nia, and just more likable all around. I think more approachable all around. I really think that this pairing of theirs was inevitable, to have these two giants together. And at some point, they were either going to feud shortly, or they were going to be together shortly. I think this does some, and maybe some of the idea is putting Lash under Nia's wing, which is, I don't know if that's a wing that that somebody should be under, but maybe that you're doing some of that, and just like I mean, Nia knows what it's like to be a heel gatekeeper, which is, I mean, she's been living the exact thing that Lash is going to be for years to come. So this could easily be just a really easy way for her to pass the torch while they're on screen together.
Good fella 1422 in the chat says, I like this Nia and Lash combo. Let them cook for a bit. Sadler says Lash is one of the few people where the main roster feels like a better fit for her than NXT. Do you agree with that? Because that happens sometimes. Maybe what are the other examples? I'll put you on the spot. What other examples come to mind of that?
I would have said Tiffany Stratton, but I still think that her most compelling work is in NXT. But I think that she's somebody who's a better fit there. I think Obafemi is a much better fit for the main roster, but they don't want to rush him. They don't want to screw up Obafemi because he's awesome. So, so there's one. Ryan Solorio in the chat, Real Legend is the name he goes by now. It says Alexa Bliss. And I think that's a pretty good one. Alexa definitely found her way in the last few months on and Standard Deviation is hitting us with Elias, which is probably the earliest, best example of that, because NXT was like a work rate paradise at the time, and Elias was a throwback honky tonk man type heel, so he definitely was one that worked out better there. But yeah, I think that a lot of the big meaty guys who
Yeah.
aren't there for a long time, I think they tend to be ones that can. It's tempting to rush them through the system, but if you know that they can be a main eventer like Oba, you take your time. And they took a lot of time with Braun Breaker as well.
What is Lash's strength right now? Going back to her, and what is the area where she needs to improve the most in order for us to be talking about her 3 years from now as having grown into a consistent main spot on the roster?
Her strengths are, I think, offense and trash talk. I think she's great at that. I think that long form promos are something that will be, because she can be in the moment and she can be great in the moment, but long form promos work on, and taking bumps work on as well also. And if you're a monster, you won't have to take as many as some, but I would just say, kind of just on the spot, those are the things that I would think of that she's okay at, but there's room to improve.
Goodfellas suggests Jordan Grace might be better on the main roster.
Oh, she might win more often. She's lost at the end of just about every single one of her feuds. She's had multiple chances at multiple championships and has lost over and over. It's clear, like every time she loses, I'm like, oh, that's because she's going up to the main roster. And then she doesn't, and she loses another feud. So Jordan is somebody I think will do well there, but we will be reminded of how short Jordan Grace is when she gets to the main roster.
Comment from what do I want to say on NXT for a sec? I thought there was something else here. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Ethan Page. I was going to bring him up. Goodfellas says Ethan Page makes anything work, but I prefer him to take a main roster shot. I want to get your thoughts on where he'd fit in on the main roster. What's his ceiling and what's his floor?
Anywhere. I think his floor is secondary champion. He's definitely somebody who knows how to be a heel champion and to really get you annoyed with him. Pairing him with Chelsea Green has been really, really good for both of them. And it's tough for Chelsea to stay in a heel context because vocal males especially want to cheer her, and she's funny. So sometimes people just want to cheer her for that. And Ethan is so good at being a heel that actually some of that has rubbed off. And with them being together all the time, they actually are getting the heel reaction that she is supposed to get. Although if somebody's cheered that much, why not turn them? I don't know. But I think she works better as a delusional heel also. So he definitely should be in the mix for those secondary championships at the very, very least. And I think he could visit the main event. I don't know if he gets pay-per-view top level championship shots, but if anybody can weasel his way in, it's him. I don't think he becomes a world champion on the main roster, and he's starting his main roster run a little late. He's in his upper 30s. I think he's 38. So he's been doing this a very, very long time. And I was seeing him not that many years ago.
He actually just turned 36. Ethan Page?
First half.
Ethan Page, you're talking about? Yeah, he just turned 36, actually. So that's not too late.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking he was 38. I think
yeah,
I've done
I would
that
have
to
guessed.
him on,
I would have guessed. I would have
on the
bet
other
38 before
podcast too.
36. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible.
Yeah, because he talks about doing it for 17 years, and I don't think of in America guys starting in their teens, but occasionally they do. So just not as often as they do in Japan or Mexico.
Yeah, I think Ethan is one of those guys where I don't think he's getting pushed just to show up AEW, but I think there's a little motivation there about how he was underutilized in AEW, that it just, for whatever reason, he was seen as, not flashy enough, but he's, or maybe, an MJF light maybe worked against him. But AEW could have gotten a lot more out of him. There were a couple times where he showed up on, Collision Rampage or Dynamite, whatever it was. I remember just being like, they could use him, a good talker who just has a certain, a demeanor and confidence in his stride, who would be a great, actually, instead of a poor man's MJF, and this sounds like an insult, it's not, a much better QT Marshall, like a guy who you just want to see the flashy, likable wrestlers beat up. and he can talk his way into fans delighting seeing a babyface, an upper mid-card babyface, beat him up, and they lost. They didn't take advantage of it because he wasn't this indie darling with flashy star rating scores, so anyway, Standard Deviation says, I like that comparison. I assume he's talking about QT and Ethan. All right. Sadler adds about Ethan. WWE has too many top guys for Ethan to be a main eventer. I think in a weaker era, he could be the secondary champion, the belt Punk currently has. Wow. I would think he's more topping out at US and IC title level. Okay, heel feuding with LA Knight, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's exactly where I put him. Yeah. And again, could visit the main event, could get a shot, but maybe that shot is on weekly TV. But yeah, he's somebody that, even when he was in AEW, my thought was he's a better fit for WWE because he's so strong on the mic and being a heel. But really, he's the kind of guy that Tony needs to figure out how to fit into AEW, because he needs, I think, more guys who can carry that part of the load, because he's got in-ring talent for days.
Yeah. Real legend, Ryan Solorio, I should say, says, I think Jordynne Grace came at the wrong time with Julia and Stephanie coming in. You agree with the timing wasn't great for her?
Yeah, it was tough because both of them were going to, they came in with fanfare, and Jordynne happened to come in at the same time. We were very nervous about that. Nate and I were on PWTorch NXT. We were worried about people getting lost in the shuffle, and Zarya came in within weeks of them too. And Zarya really got lost in the shuffle, and was damaged enough as a monster very early on that they had to do like the weird odd couple team with Sol Ruca. So yeah, there's something to be said for not coming in at the wrong time. And Stephanie, I thought Stephanie was going to be the star from the beginning, even if a lot of people online weren't seeing that, but I'd seen enough of all of them that I thought that was going to be the easiest transition. I thought that Julia's transition might be a little tougher, and Jordynne I didn't know nearly as well. I knew some of Jordynne's work, but my exposure to TNA over the years has always been minimal. So I didn't see the best stuff she ever did. So I was just kind of guessing, but I thought Stephanie was the clear front runner, and on that I've been proven right, but I didn't think that Jordynne would still be stalled right now.
Yeah, Sadler says, yeah, Jordynne coming in is kind of like Adam Cole coming in at the same time as Bryan Danielson. Goodfella says Julia seems timid on character work. Ryan Solorio says Zarya should not have talked. That took her aura away. Sean Plichta says Julia's in a bad place for me. Goodfella says Zarya has not worked for me. Derek Mitchell says the timing might not be great for Julia right now. So just lots of comments there. Anything you want to respond to there?
Nate really likes Zarya, and he thinks that she's kind of a casualty of coming in at the wrong time. And I think that some of that's true, but I also think Zarya's just okay. I think she's fine. I think that she is someone who looks and walks and talks like a monster, but then the bell rings and she kind of wrestles a very basic style. Just needs that Drew McIntyre MLW glow up to figure out how to have somebody say, you're a monster, just be one. And then figure out how to work there. I think that, and Goodfella hits it here too. Goodfella's always in the NXT chat. He says she's presented as a beast, but struggles for power moves. And that is absolutely something that's happened to her and others that they wanted to be beasts that just couldn't pull it off. Julia is definitely somebody who I think has underwhelmed, but I always thought there was potential for that. I think the best version of Julia is hopefully somebody we haven't seen yet. And somebody also said she seemed timid on character work. And that does seem true also. I get the sense that she's afraid she can't speak English well enough. And I think she's perfectly good at it. So I don't know maybe she struggles with it more than she lets on, just because she really, really nails the things she has to say on screen. But yeah, it's got to be tough doing promos in your second language if you don't feel super confident in them.
Yeah. A couple just additional comments here. The chat got rolling on this. Goodfellas says she's presented as a beast but struggles for power moves. As far as Stephanie Vaquer goes, Sean says, yeah, Stephanie had way more star potential for me anywhere. Back to Zarya, Sadler says, Zarya's similar to Julie in that her performances haven't matched the hype at all. And Goodfellas says, but I love Zarya's entrance. And Standard Deviation says, I remember when they debuted, Julia was supposed to be the star and Stephanie the sidekick. Now Steph is the star and Julia is just there. Sadler says, my thinking is Julia is worried about being too physical like she was in Japan. JC Scooby says Julia would be good working with Heyman in his stable. Any thoughts on any of those comments, Kelly?
I can definitely see Julia struggling moving from strong style to WWE style and trying to figure out how those styles are married. Strong style is my favorite kind of wrestling. I like just about every kind of wrestling, but strong style is my favorite, which is what brings me to the table to New Japan, even in really tough times like these. But that's where that's what interests me. But it's a tough transition, and we saw Shinsuke do the same thing, to where people were saying, what was the hype about him? For some people, when he got to the main roster, I mean, everybody got it with his charisma, but they didn't see that in-ring product. But I would tell anyone, you've got to watch G1 Climax. I think it was 23. He was just a monster in not the year 23, but the 23rd tournament. He was just a monster in that particular tournament. And I would have people check that out. But I think it's really tough when, I mean, in Japan, they prescribe to the idea that the best way to make it look like you hurt someone is just to hurt them. Yeah. And there's are ways
along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they build the hell out of their upper body strength, because they get dropped on their head a lot more than we do. So they can kind of withstand a little more of that, and certain things that would injure the average American wrestler don't injure them. But yeah, they're always, it's tough, because New Japan right now is only like 2 injuries away from being like, what is January 4th going to look like? But luckily there's not a lot of shows in between now and then, other than Tag League, where everybody kind of dogs it a little anyway.
Yeah. Have a super chat from Derek Mitchell. Did anyone notice WWE used police body cam footage for tonight's opening video package? I'm wondering if they got authorization from New York Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch. You talk about suspending your disbelief. I didn't notice that, but now that I think about it, I guess, yeah, they kind of had to have. I don't know if that's public domain, like to be used on an entertainment show. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't strike me either way too much. I didn't notice, and even now that I'm noticing, I don't know that I mind it all that much. But Kelly, what do you think?
I didn't notice it in the moment, and I'm trying to remember what that moment would have been. More impressed
just
that
a
Derek
recap
knew
video.
The name of New York's police commissioner.
Yeah. When they had all the nicely brand new, right out of the Halloween store NYPD police uniforms, with never have been washed, still folds in them from unwrapping the plastic, come into the ring, right, and being declared NYPD. And it's just like, come on. No, they never look like real officers, and nobody buys it. Yep. And why do things that no one's going to buy? Like, there's just, and you have to have an instinct for what fans will suspend their disbelief over and what they won't. I don't think the body cam footage struck me that way. I could be wrong. Maybe the majority or a lot of people thought it wasn't, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, as they say, in terms of adding that quote cool footage, that cool perspective to things. But just the NYPD thing in general, Kelly, it's just like, no, they're not. They're not getting beat up. They're not here.
And cops look like cops, and wrestling cops look like small time wrestlers dressed as cops. It's just, there's a look to them, and they don't know how to hide it, or to really look like they belong. So whatever.
Derek says a footage was shown when Roman speared the police officer in the barricade. So there we have it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Real legend, Ryan Solario goes, I thought the body cam footage was a nice touch. LOL. So there we go. Okay. We maybe should have started earlier with this. What did you think of Dominic introducing John, or not introducing, but that John Cena interrupted Dominic's promo? John Cena music did. Joe Tessitore, in as over-the-top way as you can imagine, says, oh my God, unannounced John Cena with a encore bonus presentation here on Raw after his last Raw ever last week. This is great. This is the best thing ever. It's like him talking about a friendship that needs to last forever. And then it turns out it's a little person imitating John Cena. Dom was in on it, and then Dom beats the guy up when he breaks from their plan. I think the worst part of this was just Wade Barrett giggling at how funny it is to see a short person try to get in the ring and struggle to pull himself up onto the ring apron to get in the ring. I felt we were going back decades to Vince McMahon's sense of humor. Remember, Vince said the funniest thing in the world is if someone unsuspectingly gets pushed into a pool. I think he also really liked to laugh at hillbillies, and he really liked to laugh at little people. And I don't know. It didn't strike me as nearly as funny as I think the people who designed it to be. I think just sort of uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable watching grown men who happen to be short be treated as hilarious because of how short they are. And that's kind of 90% of the joke. This didn't work for me. What did you think?
Yeah, I was wondering where DX was, because it really seemed like something they would have done at the height or the nadir of the Attitude Era, whichever way you want to look at that. I was really surprised that they did this. Dominic was great. He's always great. And his part in the scene, insofar as they did the scene, was very good. The guy playing Cena figured out how to be Cena. But the whole conceit of the scene, that he went into business for himself, even though he was getting a payday, and suddenly he wanted to fight Dominic. I was like, this is a little stupid, even for a professional wrestling show. Just a little tough to buy the parts that went into this. And of course, Joe Tessitore's got to do what he's got to do, but he obviously comes off as the last person in the world to understand that this isn't going to be John Cena. Still going on and on and on as the music plays and nobody comes out. And I even thought, it's not going to be a little person, is it? Like, it's not. And it was. And I didn't know that Vince said that about somebody getting pushed in the pool, but I work with a person who, you can say the funniest, wittiest thing in the world, and that kind of stuff happens a lot in the store. That person's unmoved. They are only amused, and they are very amused when other people are suffering, either financially or physically. He laughs his ass off when other people are hurting physically or financially, and it, like, nothing else makes him laugh. And that kind of, if you apply that to Vince, like, so much of what he thought was comedic about the show makes sense. Kind of a theater of cruelty. I don't know. I can't believe they did this scene. And I can't believe that Dominic still came off as competent, even though he had to be part of it.
Goodfellas says he wasn't very he just wasn't very charismatic. It's reported he's psycho from Micro Championship Wrestling. People usually pack the house for his shows. We've seen small stature Bret Hart, Booker T, and now John Cena. This is such a Vince McMahon sophomoric humor. There was a comment from Ryan Solario who goes, I think the Dom thing was a recreation of Kurt Angle dressed up as John Cena with a mini Angle coming down to the ring. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a throwback to things they've done before, maybe specifically meant to be a tribute to that, but there's so many things that just didn't work. Goodfellas says, I'm sure Vince McMahon popped hard for this segment. Standard deviation goes multiple short jokes. Sean says, I thought it was really funny. It just worked for what Dom has been doing. And again, when the premise is let's laugh at little people because they're little, it's just I don't know where you go with that. But to me, the thing that stood out most is, I don't know if most, but was just Joe Tessitore buying in so hard to the point that you didn't think he's gullible. You thought he knew, and he was in on the con, and he was trying to con you. And announcers should never come across as if they're not on the side of the audience, but they're on the side of the con the promoter's trying to convince you is real, or the sleight of hand or the misdirection. When the announcer seems like they're in on it and they're still lying to try to get you to buy in, I think they lose credibility. I just think Tessitore's so good in so many ways. And this applies to all announcers. Announcers should never be put in a position to not see through something everyone at home is seeing through, to the point that fans think, shoot, I thought he was on my side, but he's on the side of the con. So that took me out of it.
And Oklahoma City knew that he wasn't there too, because the pop wasn't there. They knew, they were just waiting for, okay, what's this screw job going to be? Because the cheer was, a handful of kids, and otherwise people just pensive. They knew he wasn't there. Yeah.
But there were some sad kids because they haven't been
no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Plichta says, I didn't like the Wade Barrett stuff. Standard Deviation says, standing on the step, can't get into the ring. Ha ha ha. So funny. There's Wade Barrett is so good some of the time, and then every once in a while he has to sell something, and he seems to do so a little too gleefully. And I'd rather sense some insubordination over his having to do some things he's asked to do. I don't know if insubordination's overstating it, but he sometimes he seems really eager to do some things that I think undercut his character. Slapping hands with Jay wasn't great. It's not as bad as when Michael Cole has done it, but I don't know. There's another example with Barrett when he was pushing something, and I just thought of it a second ago, and I lost my train of thought on it, where I was like, don't, come on, Wade, don't use up your credibility for this one. Sean says, I agree with you on that part, Wade. I'm not sure what part that was. I knew when you posted it. No, I forgot. Let's see. Oh, Standard Aviation says, what was with the cameraman filming the cameraman filming the cameraman? Because there was a cameraman who was filming a standard.
That's right.
Size,
there was the
standard size human being who was filming a little person who was wearing, what did his t-shirt say? STFU? I can't remember. And then,
is that what it was?
And then he was filming the little person, John Cena imitator. So yeah, we actually had 3 cameramen in the scene, in one off camera but implied, and the other 2 visible. I didn't understand that either. That was weird.
Yeah, somebody who wrote this, somebody in the room thought this was really funny, and I'm just hoping that everyone else didn't, and now they can point at that person and be like, "We told you this wasn't going to play in 2025." And so they won't go back to this well. I would love to talk to Dominic about this down the road. This is the main thing. It's like, congratulations on an awesome career, but I have to ask you about this one terrible segment that you tried your best to make work.
It's like, this is your life segment with Alexa Bliss. It's just, you'll never get over that.
Mm-hmm.
The
gobbledygooker dancing with Mean Gene. Yeah. He got asked about that his whole life.
Yes. Standard Aviation says, what does someone being too short to get in the ring have to do with John Cena? Sean said he's agreeing with me on the Tessitore part. But Sean says Dom did a good job with what he had. Dom always does a good job with what he has. That's it. I mean, we're not talking about him because he wasn't the problem here. It was the idea of it and Tessitore's selling of it that I disagreed with. And again, Tessitore's doing what he's told probably, but I think he can get away with dialing it down a little bit because you can just tell when he's overdoing it on something. And then it ends up being kind of a poker tell. Oh, it was STU. He was just Stu, not STFU.
Oh.
And it was Stu with Mini Stu. Okay. Yeah. I'm not going to lie, says Goodfella. I did pop for the second Stu. LOL. All right. Very good. And then, John Prine's Jim Shoe says, okay, the segment wasn't funny, but Wade explaining the story, the camera guy filming the camera is great. Wade explaining the story of the camera guy filming the camera guy is great. All right. I'll take that, I guess. Yeah. Oh, and finally, Derek Mitchell goes, I don't find humor making fun of small people. It isn't funny. It's cruel, just like WWE doing blackface with Roddy Piper, Goldust, and DX. Yeah, it's It's not about it's, and it's not like, oh, it's, you know, it's like PC police out there. It's just like, what's funny about it? Like, you can get, as comedians will say, you can get away with anything if you're funny. Minus cruel, you know, obviously minus cruelty, and don't punch down. And this didn't feel cruel, but it doesn't, I mean, I'm sorry, I can't walk into that. I can't say they were punching down. But they were. So yeah, it just what's the premise that makes this funny? Because if you're going to do something funny, you can get away with almost anything. If it's clever, if it's funny, and you're not punching down, and it's not cruel. Anyway.
Yeah, the point of it is for him to mock the audience by trotting out somebody who isn't Cena and then beating him up. But that could have been any number of people that we've never seen before. So
like know. The Gilbert thing, where it's like a wimpy looking John Cena.
Yeah, sure.
Could have been just a tall, thin guy, or a guy with a really bad bald spot. You know, like, I mean, whatever. You know, make fun of Cena. Don't make. I mean, I don't know. I just don't get the joke of he's little. Like, again, maybe I miss. You know, you're explaining, I think, where they're coming from, but I would challenge them to say what is funny about a short version of John Cena being the guy Dom hired to pretend to be John Cena. It's just fundamentally not funny. Sadler version 3 goes, the guy just wasn't funny, and neither was Dom. That's what killed the segment for me. Crowd didn't even really respond to it. John Prince Jim Shoe says, but it did feel like the heel character of Dom would come up with this idea and find it funny. Well, yeah, then you need to have Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett go, what is funny about this? What does Dom think is funny about this? You got to trash the angle in real time if the defense is, well, this is all on Dom doing something really stupid and not funny that he finds funny. Because there are people who tell jokes and they're awful, but people around them don't act like they're funny. So, yeah. Yeah, Sean says, I like those shorter people, so I didn't laugh at that part at all. Yeah, anyway, so Dom is a blast right now. What do you think of the in general? We'll get past the specifics of this segment. What Dom is going to gain from this feud with John Cena, this mini feud?
Oh gosh, a lot. Yeah, he doesn't have to win this match to get something out of it, just like in the first one. That said, I think he will. And the only thing that throws me is Cena can't lose both this match and the December 13th match, I think, because I think you really want to give one person the rub if they're going to beat him. But he's not walking out with the United States Championship either. I don't think, or Intercontinental United States. I still do it with them both all the time. I get them mixed up. Oh yeah. So yeah, I don't expect him to lose both matches, but I do expect him to lose both matches. If that makes sense. They both seem like matches that he should lose, but I suppose he could also lose the championship to whoever wins the tournament, if they want to do it that way. But Dom is so going to be a big baby face when they decide to do that. And I'm surprised that Vince probably would not have had the patience to wait this long. I think he would have started seeing the dollar signs and forced the issue. And I think every minute that they're waiting, like he got the Rock right. He held back on the Rock until the moment where it was just at a fever pitch, and it had to happen. But even then there was a swerve because of a Deadly Game Survivor Series. But Rude Dog in the chat says Cena wins with shenanigans. Yeah. Yep. Or Dom wins with shenanigans, but then Cena wins his last match. So yeah, you can certainly do that. So I just like everything Dom's doing. He's one of the things that I look forward to most when I'm watching, just because I know that he's going to do everything he's asked to do so well. And I continue to be amazed at the fact that he's really, really good at being a pro wrestler in all of the different ways his dad was good at being a pro wrestler. Like they do not look like father and son. They don't act like father and son. They don't wrestle like they were in the same family or even know the same trainers. And they're both just real good at what they do.
So Jason D from Australia says this: it wasn't meant to be funny. It was meant to put heat on Dom for beating up a much smaller person. I think there's supposed to be heat on Dom for beating up a much smaller person, but it was also meant to be funny. I mean, why? Because you can just have Dom beat up a skinny dude who doesn't look like he's a pro wrestler. I mean, you don't need to use, once you introduce a little person into the mix, it harkens back to when, hey, I mean, I grew up with it. Hey, parents, bring the kids. The midgets are in town for this house show. You get to see the funny midgets. And they did, just kind of Harlem Globetrotter style silliness in a match. And it was just an exhibitionist comedy thing that didn't treat them like grown men who happened to be short. They treated them like man-like children. And that's creepy because they're not man-like children. They are grown men with a full emotional and development and a full life. They just happen to be shorter. And when you treat them like they are kids with kid-like mannerisms and instincts, I mean, it's creepy and it feels demeaning. And wrestling has a history that they kind of should own instead of ignore in that respect. It's not like a high crime, but it's like, we're going to be critical of it. I'm not going to just go, well, since it's not the worst thing that they could possibly do, and it's not the worst thing going on in the world, then let's just ignore it. It was just bad judgment. I disagree with Jason D that, as long as it looks like Dom had a bad plan that was stupid, you can't, when you have Wade Barrett, very qualified color commentator, very credible, giggling and laughing at a guy trying to get up onto the ring apron, and he can't. They're clearly trying to go for laughs at the expense of shortness. Standard Deviation says, not even our truth could have saved that comedy segment. Derek Mitchell says, Jason, I hope you're doing well, but sure, I understand the premise of getting heat on Dom. I just thought they could have done something else besides using a small person. Exactly. Okay, we had Rey Mysterio and JD McDonough wrestle. Some people want us to talk about how good matches are, and we don't do that enough. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's just like, it's a really good match. We can acknowledge it. I don't know if it makes for great podcasting to just break down what makes a match so good. Maybe it would. Maybe we should do that more. Let's talk about like what works. And in my report tonight, I said, I think JD is a really good opponent for Rey at this point. Height wise, not to continue the theme here, but bump wise, being just a sniveling heel who you want to see get beat up, and Rey, this veteran, just good dude who people just genuinely have an affection for, outsmarting him, outwitting him, and winning. And you just get JD providing a level of athleticism that just Rey doesn't have at this point, like he did, 30 years ago. He's just not where he was because of age and wear and tear. So it was a fun match. JD is becoming a kind of a quiet, not an MVP of the company, but like this really quiet, valuable player behind the scenes, not behind the scenes. He's becoming a valuable player in terms of what he's contributing in his matches. And I don't know what more you can do, although Barrett did draw attention to it on commentary, saying his performances lately and his growth was impressing management. What did you think about this match, Kelly?
They must love him because every week only 10 or 12 people actually wrestle on the show, and it seems like he's one of them like every week. This was nice. And it's going to be. I think his NXT run has been somewhat forgotten, but he was a big deal there. It looked like he was going to actually win the main championship, but he was sacrificed to Braun Breaker a couple of times because they've just really have been not very shy about how much they want Braun Breaker to happen. But yeah, I think right now as a foil for Rey, who is I watched Jushin Liger all during his career, like no matter where he was. I saw a lot of Liger, so I saw a heavier, less mobile Liger figuring it out at the end, and other junior heavyweights creating movement around him. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening with Rey. And for as long as we're lucky enough to have him, I think that a guy like JD is great for him. And JD unfortunately is in that position where they really like him, but part of the reason is because he can just job to anybody. And so I don't know how long he can sustain that without an occasional push, but occasionally winning the tag team championships does kind of mask that for him. They did get in just one joke about his head today, but it actually made Wade laugh because Joe dropped it because Wade said JD gets thrown into the post, and Joe just goes, "I feel sorry for the post," and and Wade cracked up at that. So yep, they can't resist, and I get it, but yeah, that was a nice little match. The only one that didn't technically have stakes because we had the quarterfinals and the advantage match, but I thought that was pretty good stuff.
All right, so Jason D is defending himself here in the chat. Let's go back to, or defending a segment a bit, and wants to see it framed a little differently. It wasn't meant to be funny to people with morals, and it wasn't. Was Joe Tess laughing? He was acting disgusted. He was the voice of the fans. It wasn't meant to be funny. He adds, if anything, the small person stood up to Dom, but going against the script, Dom laid out to him. Dom was a bully and no one was laughing. It wasn't meant to be funny. I leave it at that. Kelly, your thoughts? Is Jason making a case? Yeah, it wasn't meant to be funny. I shouldn't say dwelling. I'm pointing out and focusing on Wade Barrett laughing at him trying to get in the ring. That I don't think he genuinely struggled to get in the ring. I think that was meant to be a funny spot. But it wasn't a lot of haha comedy after that in Jason D's defense of his framing of it. It was meant to be Dom was playing a joke on the fans. Dom thought something not funny was funny, and Dom double-crossed him, and Dom bullied him and beat him up, and it was meant to get heat on Dom. I think that's let me correct me if I'm wrong, Jason D, but that's a fair characterization, and I want to give him a chance to I want to give him his argument a fair hearing here, since I and others are pushing back on it. John Prine's Jim Shoe says, I actually agree with Jason. But Sadler goes, if it wasn't meant to be funny, why do the bit where he's trying to jump into the ring? And I think that is the toughest part. But Jason D did say in the chat, yes, I represented his argument well. Kelly, your thoughts?
And it could be that that the performer himself was like, I'm going to do this bit with jumping into the ring. Who knows if he just decided to do that? He's not worried about losing his job because he's a 1 weeker. So he might be going in doing something like that. I do think Jason makes a pretty good case here, and it could be, Wade, that our ages are working against us because we saw little people being used solely for comedy for years and years and years. I mean, the closest they got with not using it for comedy was with Max Mini, but even that era had a lot of silly stuff there too. We saw the Vince little person experience, and so when your show directly calls back to and evokes those kind of things, I think it's inevitable for us to see this as poor content intended as comedy. But maybe if we hadn't been through all that, maybe we'd see this in a different light. I hope,
in a way, I mean, I know what you're saying, and I get it. It might make us like more passionate about it and putting it in context. But even if little people had never been used on a wrestling show historically, ever, I still don't get it. Like, Sadler version 3 in chat goes, I wasn't offended. I just thought it was bad comedy. And Standard Deviation says it's not relevant to John Cena. And so it's like, why did Dom choose a short person? What's funny? Okay, the funny part is this guy doesn't look at all like John Cena because he's too short. That's the joke. So you have to make the argument Dom's joke is bad, but why would we believe Dom would even think that's funny? He doesn't look anything like John Cena, and I'm screwing the fans over for it. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Jason D, by the way, does say, age-wise, I'm 43. I've seen it all too. So he's saying it's not just people who are familiar with the history that are reacting to it. Okay.
I hope he's right. I hope that it was not intended to be like funny, haha. And that they got out of it what they wanted. I hope he's right.
Yeah. Derek says, why didn't Dom just use Darren Young, who looks like John Cena and he's black? Yeah. I don't know if that'd have been funny either. But that's, I think, Derek's point. All right, main event. We had the Usos deciding, since they weren't bickering like Punk and Roman and Cody, that they were the best opponents to take on Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre in the War Games Advantage match. This went about 17 minutes. Logan and McIntyre win because there's a brawl at ringside with a bunch of other people in War Games, and that led to Jimmy being distracted, and Logan rolled him up from behind for the win. And then we got a brawl with everybody afterwards, including Brock coming out in the aforementioned brief appearance by him. We talked specifically about the build to War Games, but did anything stand out in the match? I think Logan Paul wrestling feels novel and special still. They don't do that a lot, but I also don't think they want to treat Logan as a bigger deal than the full-time main wrestlers like CM Punk or Drew McIntyre. Even though he has this crossover awareness, there's a non-WWE awareness and fame that he has achieved. I don't think within WWE they feel like, as much as they value him and think he's talented, and I think largely like working with him, I don't think they want to act like he's this really big special attraction when he wrestles. But it does define down a little bit the whole reason he's there, which is a crossover celebrity aspect, if they sort of throw him in almost happenstance. But so anyway, that's just a kind of a thought I had. It's like, oh, Logan Paul's wrestling in the main event. They didn't really make a big deal out of it. And then I kind of thought, why? And that might be why. What did you think of the match? Anything stand out? Like Sean Plichta says, Logan looked really good. Standard Deviation says Logan is good in that backstage segment to set this up. Standard Deviation says best new talent since MJF. Kelly, your thoughts?
Only one really weird moment here. It was where Jimmy was doing a high cross body to Logan, and it looked, however they landed, it was like, well, I don't know who was supposed to have done that move, but otherwise I thought that this came off pretty well. Jimmy is that person I was talking about when I said I feel like I'm seeing the people who are going to do the jobs in this match, and I feel like Jimmy is the one who's going to have to do the job in this match. Somebody asked, who is, if this ends the show, what's the show closing angle? And for me, it could be that they decide that they really do want to turn Jay. I don't know if they want to do that with somebody who's as important to merch and everything that Jay is, and he's supposed to be for the kids, but that certainly has not stopped them from teasing it. So, that is something I think they could do. They could also do Roman, because he teased that he might be going after a championship. But I mean, we saw that for a really long time. So I don't know that it would be time to do that when you're letting him settle into part-time big pop territory anyway. So, Eric says, did they talk about Lesnar falling down during his entrance already? I'm sad to say I must have been writing something down because I missed that.
I was going to save that comment till I queued it up because I missed it too. So you just blew my whole chance to handle that smoothly by popping it up on the screen.
Man. I've got too much power being able to put this stuff on the screen.
You host. So I get the instinct to do it. So I'm literally, I turned the camera on. I'm fast forwarding to that segment now because I was typing up my report and missed it. So now you exposed us all. If that happened. Jason D says, what? You have to see it now. So yeah. Although now my fast forward froze. I'm stuck at 3640. Oh, there it is.
I hope it was Titus O'Neil quality of a fall. I can't believe I missed that.
Sadler says I didn't see it either. Goodfellas says the Lesnar fall be funny any other time, but this was a moment he was a closer and it hurt the segment. So there we are. I wish I could jump ahead an hour at a time on Netflix, but I can only go 3 speed as we do this. So I would have found a creative way to stall Kelly if you hadn't thrown that up there. But I don't know what that creativity would have been. Now it's messing up again here. Yeah.
Now, was it intentionally funny, or was it just meant to put heat on the match? That's the question that we have to talk about for 15 minutes.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Whoops. All right. Okay. So as I cue that up, because Netflix takes forever to fast forward, I wanted to ask you next, actually, what's going on with Drew McIntyre? And in this group, Do you think it's going to just, he's a hired hand, they needed someone and nothing happens? Or is this a very intentional and it's going to lead to a Drew babyface turn, or Drew joining, or a new push for Drew in a significant way? Like what this whole suspension thing is weird too, because I don't get why they had to do that. I mean, it just what are they getting away with? It doesn't feel like anything special. Oh, he's suspended, but Paul Heyman found a loophole. I don't find that enhancing this at all.
Yeah, Drew has been so good for the last 5 years, and just seems like he's just a freight train, just a diesel engine picking up as he goes. He just has been getting better and better, and I would like to say that this is leading to somewhere big for him, but it really just feels like he's the person where they're like, oh, right, we got Drew and he's good, so we have to get him in a decent spot. I hope there's a real plan for him here. I hope that he is part of the story of what this is. But I guess that because I just freaking love the guy, and I'm prepared to see this just be, he had to make an appearance. And they needed one more body. So I don't know.
Yeah, I want there to be a good payoff to Drew being in here, but if there isn't, I think there's a benefit to just the association of being part of this that can actually help him. I mean, just being out there with Heyman and Logan and Brock kind of reasserts him out of like this Drewosphere and into something that feels more big time. You know, like he's not off to the side in a grudge feud. He's in this like War Games main event. So yeah, I remain just not sure what the point of it was and exactly where they're going with it.
Yeah, and we got more comments about the fall, and I really want to see the fall, and I'm getting closer to being able to see it.
Oh, good. Yes.
And hopefully that's good. Standard. Oh yeah. How did Seth originally play into it? That's certainly the thing hanging over this and all of the proceedings on the main roster right now, because this was meant to be Seth's year, and then it wasn't.
I'm finding that I really hate the Netflix website redesign and the Netflix interface, trying to figure out. I was fast forwarding on some old episode that I brought up instead of the current one, and I'm more frustrated than I'm showing with the interface of Netflix at this point, because I do not want to watch the December 1st episode, but it is not offering me a chance to watch the replay on my home screen because I already watched it. And so, yeah, Netflix, you're making this a lot more difficult than it needs to be. And you're ruining our podcast completely. Actually, I'm going to blame you, Kelly. Because none of this would be happening.
I get people injured. I break Netflix. It's a whole thing.
I have finally found it. It took some digging, and we're working our way to push play. Okay, good. It is starting at the very beginning. Have you made it to the beginning or to the end?
I have gotten to, okay, I'm on Reigns throwing Superman punches. So I'm real close.
Yep. I'm excited. You're going to see it before me.
Yep. Okay, here we go. Out to the ramp.
Is the build worth
cowboy
it?
Hat.
Did they blow it up?
I'm about to find out, I think. He looks old. All right, dancing side
Sean
to side.
This is great podcasting. There we go. All right.
Okay, it's pretty good.
That was worth it then. That's good. I love it.
Yeah, that was pretty all right. And of all people, like a deeply serious person like Brock, makes it.
Yeah, and you know what? It's been a bad year because his pants broke, his shorts broke, or whatever, and he was in practically in his underwear, and he had to like kind of break character and act like that was hilarious too. So Eric Moy goes, this reaction was worth it. Your reaction, Kelly, was worth it. Now I feel like pressure to give you that. I feel pressure to no sell it now, although I can't even fast forward this show anymore. People are gonna have to wait till later to find out my reaction if Netflix doesn't. It's stuck at 1 hour 22 minutes and 40 seconds, and I have no idea why. Yeah, I just want to start throwing things. Can I start throwing things?
Yeah, I mean, it's your house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Leave it to Mike Myers. It would be funnier if Brock was a little person. Points. Points.
Well, we got some funny content out of it. It just
Yes,
wasn't
totally.
the content itself.
What Standard Deviation goes, imagine that clip in the opening sequence for WWE's TV. Jason D says, I feel like Brock can get away with it as he has all this energy and power. I don't blame him for tipping over. So there it is. Okay. We had a request for comments on another good match on the show, which was Gunther and Carmelo Hayes. Kelly, what'd you think of it?
Marred only by the fact that it was never in doubt. Whether or not you think Gunther is definitely going over in the end, he was definitely going to win this match. I liked Mello being part of this. I like how good this one was throughout. Mello was kind of one of the bigger guys in NXT. He wasn't the biggest, but he was one of the bigger guys. And now he can be the small in a big versus small. And he really does excel in fighting from underneath, which he didn't have to do very often in NXT. He didn't get a lot of reps doing that. So I thought that this came off really well. And Gunther's always good in that context. And if there's a big versus small, he's going to be the big. So I dug this. And I think I don't know if anybody had any doubt about this one, but Mello also seems like that person who, even if they're not actively pushing him, they know they can count on him for ring minutes and to really do something cool.
I don't know if you can tell, but I just watched it. I decided I was going to go to the web browser because then I can just drag the bar to the exact spot. I don't have to hit fast forward. Kelly. So I figured that out.
Good to know.
But even that was a challenge. So I love that Brock turned it into, and I meant to do that moment where he decided to roll backwards and pop up on his feet. So that was good. But I'm going to watch Heyman on the replay here. Great Heyman, no sold it. He just watched him like nothing was going on. And then Brock, he's jogging in place and he kicks his foot up. He slips on the ramp, rolls onto his back. And then I love the director cuts away to a wide shot. Like, we're going to protect Brock. But then Brock smiles and gives his hat to Braun Breaker and laughs about it, and then laughs on his way to the ring, and regains his composure and has to look happy and fierce. So there we have it. Yeah, that was worth it. That was worth it. Yep. He'll be fine. It was not Shockmaster bad. And I did enjoy him slipping and falling and then rolling backwards. Right. And kind of a graceful, not a graceful dismount, but a graceful, like, I'm going to turn this into a fancy athletic, almost kip up. So there we go. Yeah, he said he gave the Jason D says he gave the hat to Breaker. Here you go, kid. I meant that, you know. Goodfella says good old Cowboy Brock should be back, and how he finishes his career. Crowd likes him. He talks more on the mic. It's fun. And yeah. Oh, Goodfella says about the Gunther match. The lethargic way Gunther worked really helped me in the crowd be frustrated with him and cheer for Mello's offense. So there we are. Derek Mitchell goes, I'm glad Gunther's getting back to his roots and he has the NXT theme. WWE needs to stop tinkering with theme music, especially when it's a good theme. Okay. Kelly, how about the way they're using Carmelo? Maybe I feel like I ask you this whenever we do a show and he's on. But I think it's a good go-to question because there's a lot of different opinions on how Carmelo has been utilized. So based on everything in NXT, is he somebody who might end up being better on the main roster than in the long run, or is he a good example of someone who is clearly better in NXT and used poorly on the main roster, or is it still to be determined?
I think he's being used okay, but there's different pacing and different storytelling styles on the two shows. And they've gotten to be a little bit more like each other, but not completely like each other. So I dig what they're doing with Carmelo. I like that they trust him to be in these spots, that he was able to advance once in the tournament because only 8 guys got to do that in the entire company. So that was cool. Yeah. So they like him and they want to give him some important wins. So they put him over now I can't remember, in the first round. And yeah, and they fed him to one of the absolute favorites to win the whole thing. So I like what they're doing. He's good as a face and heel, but I would cast him as a heel, I think, ideally. But he's kind of one of these characters who he doesn't have to change much to play face and heel. Just has to change the volume setting.
You can turn face by just having enough of Miz, and also not giving Miz the satisfaction of an actual feud. I think in WWE, he's not super tall. That shouldn't be the only factor, but more than NXT, it puts you in a position to maybe be a babyface. And then also there's just kind of a cool factor. Does he have a legit cool factor that WWE should market in a babyface type way? And he doesn't have to be a top tier guy in War Games next year with all the big hitters to have a good, fulfilling, useful main roster career as a babyface or heel. And I feel I'm in the minority, but I didn't mind the first round, the early draft pick who doesn't deliver. I just think that's a real sports story. Same with Maxie Dupree. It's a real story that somebody does better than expected, and now she feels pressure, but she's been working hard. And is this a fluke, or is this a sign of her hard work paying off? Does she have some sort of, she stumbles around the ring, but is there something about her heart and her determination and whatever? I mean, whatever trait you want to pick out that allows her to maybe score an upset now and then. With Carmelo, he was the opposite. He got the big head and didn't live up to it, felt the pressure, and then it had the story arc of being mentored by Miz, which he wouldn't have done had he succeeded as a high draft pick, and now he's outgrown him. I just think that's fine for a mid-card, upper mid-card type story in pro wrestling.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think, and I wonder what the long-term plan was for him, because they put him over in the Andre Battle Royal. So I just thought things are coming, or at the very least they're reminding us, hey, we do have a lot of, or reminding him, like saying, we believe in you, just trust the process, because we're, that statement is fraught in wrestling, but it's just a signal to him that they were still committed to him. So I hope his ship comes in, because I don't see any reason why he can't be on the level of like an LA Knight, somebody like that, always fighting for maybe the mid-card title in an era where wrestling has so many people who can be at the top right now, comparative to some other eras.
And I won't say that I'm not trying to say he's as good as Ilya Dragunov, but there's something to be said for reaching a certain level of popularity and respect amongst the fan base, because you just put on good performances on the mic, in the ring, or both. And I think he's good enough to earn fans' respect over time, even if he's not Ilya Dragunov level. I think you can tell a story with him that ultimately kind of works, in terms of fans going, you know what, we've been on a ride with this guy through some highs, some lows, some highs, some lows, but he always works hard, he delivers, and we're entertained by him. You don't want the WWE to saying entertainment's a key factor, but if fans feel like this is a guy who's putting forth a good effort and we've been entertained, we've enjoyed him, you can just over time kind of earn a following that way, as long as you're not just made to be a complete butt of a joke or just jobbed out. But I would say, even if you don't like his story arc, there has been a story arc that has some logic to it, that if he does rise up the card, it's kind of like AEW's doing with Kyle O'Reilly. Oh, he was out for a while. He had some health issues. He stumbled a bit for quite a while. When he came back, he wasn't himself, but now he's coming into his own to try to explain why he should be a Jon Moxley, at Jon Moxley's level and competing with him. Well, good. You've given us a reason to believe that all those losses we just saw in the past don't count, because he's in a different place now. They can do that with Carmelo at any point, and they're kind of doing it to a degree now, just with how competitive he is against top guys.
Yeah, and I think there can be a groundswell for him, and he can be, I don't know. I mean, he could be a Kofi Mania type guy. I really think so. I just think he's that likable, that the fans could really just all get behind him at once if things break right.
Kelly, is there anything else from the show that you want to bring up?
I don't know. I didn't think there was enough on this show for us to talk about, but
well, there are little people and
NXT,
and people better in NXT who are better out on the main roster than NXT. So we and then we had to stall a long time to find the Brock Lesnar thing, which I hopefully had a nice payoff.
Yeah. Interested in seeing these tournaments or these War Games matches. And by the way, I did say I thought I knew who the jobs were going to be done by, and it's Kairi Sane and Jimmy Uso. But sometimes they like to really make a statement and have it be the top guy on the side. So keep in mind, folks, that I did predict that Obafemi would win this tournament, and he's not in it. So don't put your money on anything based on what I think is good.
All right, very good. Thanks, Kelly. Been a blast. We'll be by tomorrow with the flagship Wednesday night. Sean had us early for covering Dynamite. That is the plan, to cover Dynamite as usual Wednesday night. Big event coming out of Full Gear. Should be a lot of ramifications. We're even planning to do a show Friday night. So join us for a regular week, although we'll take Thursday off for the most part to take part in the United States Thanksgiving holiday festivities. Kelly, have a great week. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, same to you.
And NXT tomorrow night. We got to plug in. Yeah, what do you got? Got your live stream right here on our YouTube channel tomorrow.
NXT second week of Gold Rush is tomorrow. First week was last week, and the heels won every match last week. It was a good show, but all the matches were won by heels. So odd decision to break things the way they did on week 1 and 2. This was a taped show, so a lot of the good stuff. So they really front loaded week 1, so it couldn't be spoiled. But I haven't spoiled myself, so I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. All right, cool. Thanks, everybody. Our sale, pwtorch.com/govip. Support what we do, and you'll get a lot in return. And it is not $12.99 for a full month. It's $3.99 for a full month. $9 off a full month of access. You're getting almost 4 decades of back content instantly unlocked. Unbelievable amount of content in so many different categories: audio, written, newsletter, PDF. Great stuff. If you haven't done that before, dive into the archives and give us a try. And we hope we'll earn your business going forward with a ton of exclusive content, bringing just kind of a mature approach to covering wrestling, journalism based, not kind of fan club, fanboy based. And we try to be, we strive to be balanced and just understand not just what's happening, but why it's happening, and use a lot of diverse voices to give different points of view. And I think you'll appreciate this if this is your main or one of your main ways that you supplement your wrestling viewing is our coverage. So check it out. pwtorch.com/govip gives you details on VIP membership, and then the links to the form are on that page. And when you get to the sign up form, just in the coupon code box, enter NOV2025, NOV2025 to take that $9 discount off a 1 month, 3 month, or 12-month subscription. Thanks again, everybody. Great chat. And we'll talk to you all. Let's see. What are people saying in the chat? If it's anything relevant, sometimes I regret not seeing it at the end. Nope, we're good. So thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.